Stocks slide after RBI status quo policy. The sensex and the Nifty end over 1% lower. Bank stocks slide. The mid-caps, they mildly outperform.
Paytm shares stumble after RBI defends the crackdown, calling the restrictions proportionate. ITC shares also decline after its largest shareholder is working towards diluting its stake. On the other hand, LIC shares rally ahead of earnings.
And Power Grid gains after margin beat in Q3. Trend gains some more after surprisingly a strong quarter that's reported, and a couple of brokerages liked it. Cummins also climbs on earnings outperformance and an upbeat outlook. Hello and welcome to Markets Today, the show where we aim to get you all the data points for the day and also set you up for the next trading session. I'm Nigel D'Souza. Joining me, my colleague, Surbhi Upadhyay. Hey, Surbhi.
Hi, Nigel. Well, quite a day and a bit of a disappointment from the RBI. I think people went in with some hope and some expectation. RBI said not playing ball, not giving you what you want, at least not immediately. But we'll talk about this as we go over. There's lots to cover. We'll get you all the key movers and shakers as well, all the top corporate developments, all the key regulatory voices that we've heard from today. And then, of course, what to watch out for tomorrow. But first, let's talk about the day gone by and disappointment, particularly for the banks.
Well, that's right. Surbhi, a couple of factors played out today. One was that the street read the RBI Governor's commentary as more hawkish than dovish. So that was clearly the data point that we got, because post the speech, we saw the markets did see a bit of a correction from around 11 a.m. on. Now, that was one factor that played out. The other factor was that you had two big heavyweights in there. ITC, there could be a supply overhang on the stock, and that's why that one, from around 1 p.m. onwards, that stock did sell off. And HDFC Bank revisited that 1400 rupee odd mark. So with those two heavyweights underperforming and virtually ending at the low point of the day, that's what put some pressure. The good news is, though, that the Nifty and the Nifty Bank, they both defended crucial support levels on a closing basis. For the Nifty, it was the 20 DMA. For the Nifty Bank, it was the 200 DMA that almost got breached, but it got defended by the end of the session. So both those two numbers come up for you on the screen. The turn to stock, or the stock that the bulls have been turning to, is Reliance Industries. And the intraday chart comes up for you on the screen, telling you why that in the last hour, you cut the losses by close to around 50 to around 60 points odd. That's the big boy in there. That's making a bit of a dash towards the highest weightage on the Nifty. And that's the reason why we cut some losses. But otherwise, the bears would feel quite good after a while. They had the upper hand.
Absolutely. In fact, the Bank Nifty was losing 45,000 in the bargain intraday as well. Then finally, there was a bit of a push coming in. And the fact that SBI today was not falling like its private sector peers, so that was some saving grace for the Bank Nifty. Otherwise, this index was very close to testing the lows that we made at the end of January. Around 44,860 thereabouts. So precarious times for the Bank Nifty. Just talk about some of the other pockets of the market that were trying to fight back. Nigel mentioned Reliance. There was some buying in large cap technology. Clearly, it wasn't enough, but for what it's worth, TCS was up about 1% or so. There was some buying on HCL Tech as well. And BPCL, by the way, that had another good session. The other aspect of trade today was mid-caps. And after a long time, mid-caps were also sort of taking it easy. Yes, the index was not down as much as the Nifty or the Bank Nifty. The index ended flat. But if you look at the advanced decline ratio, it tells you there was lesser euphoria today, because you had far more many declining stocks, almost 1,400 declining stocks and just about 850 advancing stocks. So basically, a day of sobering down and digesting the RBI news that we got in. Well, that was the day. Let's tell you what we have on the show for you. We'll start off, of course, with some of the key movers and shakers, even beyond the Nifty. Then we talk about two stocks that are in focus. Lots of commentary on Paytm in that RBI press conference, and we'll tell you all about it as we go forward. And then, of course, the spotlight is going to be on ITC. We'll explain why the market got a little rattled about BAT, a British American tobacco, perhaps looking to sell some stake in ITC. So we'll have Mangalam joining in to give us some perspective on this. And then, of course, we go to Nimesh on D Street Chatter. Today, he's looking at IEX and why that was buzzing in the trading session. And of course, and last but not the least, the policy is done. But what next? What to watch out for tomorrow? We'll tell you that as we go along. But to start it off, as always, let's go across to Vivek for the top movers segment. Vivek.
Well, thank you so much for that, Surbhi. Like you mentioned, a day where you did see significant selling pressure emerge, and on the back of that, significant price damage across certain sectors was seen. We'll look at that. But first, let's have a look at some of the stocks that did quite well. Cummins, of course, almost excellent set of numbers within the capital goods space. Not only that, even in the management con call, they actually said that the exports have started bottoming out. On the back of that, you did see further buying emerge as far as Cummins is concerned. The second stock on our radar, Power Grid, good set of numbers. Along with that, CLSA went ahead and increased the target price on this particular name. SH Kelkar, from the broader end of the markets, margins over here expanded over 400 basis points. And on the back of that, stock ended higher by over 16%. The next stock, from the pharma pack, Supriya Life Sciences, margins on a year-on-year basis, more than double. Stock ended higher by 11%. And the last stock, as far as the gaining list is concerned, GICRE, we'll discuss this a little bit more, but now even the reinsurance space has started seeing significant buying traction and amongst the top gainers as far as the NSE 500 is concerned. But on the other hand, which were the stocks, which are the sectors that saw significant selling pressure? The entire FMCG basket, starting right from Nestle, did see selling pressure. Britannia down almost 4%, ITC on the back of the news flow. Jyoti Labs too, one that we didn't discuss too much, but over 6% lower in today's trading session. The other pocket that did see significant weakness was the NBFC pack. While gold financiers like Manappuram and Muthoot saw selling pressure, look at names like Cholafin, Shriram Finance, Canfin Homes. These stocks too ended quite lower in the session today. The next stock on the radar, Metropolis Healthcare. Metropolis Healthcare, some downgrades coming in. Volume weakness was seen as far as results was concerned. Borosil Renewables, muted set of results. Company having significant headwinds. On the back of that, stock ended low by 9%. And lastly, Paytm, one that we'll discuss further. But again, stock hitting the low circuit even in today's trading session.
Okay, all right. Thanks a lot for that, Vivek. Well, joining us on the show now, we have Mayuresh Joshi of William O'Neill, as well as Jay Bala of CashTheChaos.com, who have joined us. Thanks a lot, gentlemen, for joining in. Well, Jay, first, let's come across to you. Bit of a down day. The Nifty Bank is looking weak. What are the support levels on both these two indices? The Nifty Bank as well as the Nifty, we just highlighted that the Nifty managed to defend the 20-day MA, the Nifty Bank, the 200-day MA. But do you think sooner than later, both those two levels are getting taken out?
Yeah, hi, Nigel. And I've been pointing out the banking index has been behaving pretty much to the T. And the very important support for the banking index is at 44,429. I think it's a matter of time before it goes. And if that goes, there is still enough. The market will be beyond the grips of the bulls. And so that's a very critical level for the banking index. And my opinion is that that will not be just a break for the banking index. It will also drag the rest of the markets. So watch out that support level as something very crucial for the overall direction of the market. And when it comes to the Nifty was 3 points short of an important support today. It held above that. And if Nifty were to close below 21,460, the tussle that's on in the market, the bulls have been trying to close the markets about 21,950, and the buyers have been trying to close the market below 21,350. Now that will be settled once if you see a market close below 21,460. So these are the important support levels for me.
Okay, got that. Jay, thank you very much. Let me quickly go to Mayuresh as well. Mayuresh, hi, good afternoon. Good to have you on the show. So what do you think? I mean, today was just only because the RBI governor wasn't as charitable as the market was perhaps hoping he would be. What's your sense? What from here on?
Afternoon, Surbhi. Possibly. I think the markets wanted an excuse to probably have profits being taken off the table. And they did get an excuse reading through some of the statements that the government probably put forth. But structurally, I think, as the budget documents also are pointing out, to a lower fiscal deficit in the next financial year, which indicates that the growth momentum in terms of the internals, tax collections as an example, that support the fiscal deficit to a large extent, are expected to remain extremely stable. And therefore, Indian macros are supposed to be one of the best as far as the globe is concerned. Having said that, the micros in terms of corporate earnings have held up pretty well as well. And a large part of the now probably getting delayed to the second half of the calendar year in all. Now, the second half of the next financial year is where earnings will also see a huge bump up that will start getting through in terms of a lot of corporates across the indices. So to that extent, I think an excuse, in my opinion, that the markets probably saw and witnessed to a certain extent. Domestic cyclicals still appear strong in lieu of what can probably go through in terms of the capex and the budgetary spend, and private capex expected to come back very, very strong.
Okay, all right, Mayuresh, thanks for that. But stay with us. Paytm, well, that's a stock in focus. It continued to trade in the red after it slumped 10% in today's session. This after the Reserve Bank Governor, Shaktikanta Das, said that Paytm was given sufficient time and there was a bilateral engagement to nudge corrective action. The governor also said that the restrictions that were imposed to the bank were proportionate to the gravity of the situation. Ritu's been on top of that. She's joining us to give us a breakdown of what the RBI governor said on Paytm's payments back. Ritu?
Well, Nigel, this is the first time you have the regulator publicly addressing the Paytm issue. And the key line that you read out, I think that is the message to all of the stakeholders, to investors, to anyone speculating really that, all action from the RBI is proportionate to the kind of lapses that it has seen. And therefore, after giving sufficient time to rectify these lapses in regulatory compliance, was this action taken? Now, the Reserve Bank of India governor made it very clear that RBI does not comment on specific companies, but these are general observations which he highlighted to give us a glimpse into why RBI took the kind of unprecedented action that it took. And it started with the fact that, RBI has significantly deepened its supervisory function and that it has emphasized on bilateral engagement, which is a two-way engagement, to ensure it is nudging the regulated entity into taking rectification measures. And, when that does not work, and after giving them sufficient time is when the RBI has to act to take business or supervisory restrictions. But being a responsible regulator, the governor said, and supervisor, all these actions are ultimately linked to the fact that customers' interest and depositors' interest must be protected and financial stability must be maintained, highlighting to anyone who was questioning why such severe actions have been taken on the bank that restrictions are proportionate to the gravity of the situation. He also ended by saying that there will be an FAQ which the Reserve Bank of India will issue because there have been some clarification sought by the public on what happens next. People who may be using the Paytm wallet or using it to make UPI transactions. So what next for them? RBI is going to issue an FAQ on the matter. And he ended by saying that, let this matter not lead anyone to doubt the fact that RBI is committed to ensuring, a stable ecosystem and stabling or rather encouraging innovation in the fintech ecosystem.
Okay, all right, got that, Ritu. Thank you very much. So Paytm always in the headlines, and once again today it was a down circuit day for that stock. Let's move to the next one, the key stock that we're focusing on today, and that was ITC. We saw the tumble on the ITC shares, almost down 5% at one point in time. This after the company's largest shareholder, BAT, British American Tobacco, said it was working towards perhaps selling down some stake in the company. Let's straight away go to Mangalam to understand what was said and what it perhaps really means. Mangalam.
So ITC's largest shareholder, British American Tobacco, BAT, holds close to around 29% stake in the company, and this amounts to almost 1.5 lakh crores. This is almost 30% of BAT's own market cap as well. So this is why analysts were constantly asking BAT about the unlocking of value that they hold in ITC itself for the last few quarters. Why today's news is important is because it's the first time that BAT has gone ahead and written in their earnings press release itself that they've decided to consider options to sell the stake in ITC itself. Remember, BAT holds ITC stake since the 1900s or the early 20th century. So there are a lot of regulatory clearances that they need to go ahead and sell this stake, which is what they are working on. And they said that they will tell the street at the earliest about this process itself. So the fact that BAT has now acknowledged in their earnings release that they are going ahead and selling this puts a bit of a supply overhang on ITC, largely because, it's a 1.5 lakh crore chunk that may be out in the market.
All right, Mangalam, thanks a lot for that. So Paytm down, ITC down, but shares of LIC rallied close to around 6% after Prime Minister Narendra Modi lauded the increased public confidence in public sector units. He even hailed LIC's recent stock performance. Let's hear out what he had to say.
मैं सीना तान करके सुनाना चाहता हूं, आंखें ऊंची करके सुनाना चाहता हूं, आज LIC के शेयर रिकॉर्ड स्तर पर ट्रेड हो रहे हैं। आज अधिकतर PSU रिकॉर्ड रिटर्न दे रहे हैं और इन्वेस्टर्स का भरोसा PSUs की तरफ बढ़ रहा है।
Indeed, what a move is what we saw on LIC today. Mayuresh, let me get you into this one. LIC, those who got in the IPO, they were getting a little bit nervous. What's going to happen? And suddenly they'll be thanking their stars that they held on. And when the Prime Minister speaks about a stock, you knew it had to be the stock of the day. That's why at the start of today's session itself, I said, that's the stock of the day for me. What's your take? At around this 1,100 rupees, what would you say? Valuations in favor, trades at around 1 times price to embedded value. And we have seen a fair bit of delivery-based buying. Your take?
No, you're absolutely right, Nigel, I think. And with that respect, I think the kind of numbers that are now coming in, the monthly numbers have shown steady state improvement. So I think signs of definite improvement happening over the last few months. And an obvious change in terms of the product mix that LIC is now undergoing since the IPO is clearly played out on the numbers. The second aspect also is a lot of the digitalization efforts which are now getting played out will reduce costs to a large extent. And therefore, both from a valuation standpoint, both in terms of how we look at key pivot levels at MarketSmith, the stock has got above its key resistance areas. And probably, I think a lot of retail investors might be feeling very, very happy to see that price come back. So anybody holding should definitely hold on. I think a lot of change is happening, and that change can reflect positively on numbers going ahead.
Okay, got that. That's a take on LIC. Jay, just come in over here on some of these stocks that we've been discussing, particularly on ITC, perhaps, because now this was going to become a bit of a market event, and we don't know if it lingers, this overhang that Mangalam was speaking of. So maybe a take on ITC. I don't know if you can comment on Paytm because it's such a volatile stock and it's so news-driven. But maybe even a comment on PSUs or LICs if you have a view here.
Sure. ITC, I said a couple of months back that, I was expecting the FMCG index to touch 60,000. I had even mentioned that will happen because of Britannia and Nestle and not because of ITC. ITC is going to be left behind and it's going to go up. So ITC behavior is pretty much, par for the course for me. But today's low from 407 to 394 is absolutely critical for ITC. Otherwise, the correction can get deeper. My guess is that it's going to stall here and start to try to rebound from here. That's the take on ITC. But when it comes to insurance space, I just want to yes, LIC is the top performer there. Private sector insurers are taking a beating because of the outperformance of LIC, and except ICICI Lombard, I don't see any other private sector insurance name as a buy on the dip. So HDFC Life and ICICI too is all an avoid. But I have a very important observation to make on LIC itself. If the stock is the top performer within the space, but we don't want to see it close below 1,000. But if that happens, I know that will be very negative for it. And governments generally are the biggest consensus, and markets generally tend to fade consensus. The fact that the Prime Minister of the country is committing on a stock, and if we see the stock close below 1,010, that will be the fading move, the markets that fades the euphoria in the stock. So we don't want to see it close below 1,010.
Okay, so watch out for some of those critical levels. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us on the show this afternoon. Good to have you here. We do have to now quickly move and look at some of the corporate commentary that we've got during the course of the day. Starting first with Birla Corp. This stock gained 4% in trade. In a conversation with CNBC-TV18, Aditya Saraugi of the company said that the company had to scale down volume guidance from 15% to 13% on an annual basis. He added that he expects EBITDA to be at 1,100 rupees per ton in the current year by the time FY24 closes out.
Meanwhile, Uno Minda fell close to 4%. Mr. Sunil Bora of Uno Minda told CNBC-TV18 that they expect FY24 revenues to be around 13,500 to 14,000 crore rupees. He also said that they aim to stick to the margin guidance of around 11%. Well, with that, it's time for a short break. On the other side, we'll get straight to a popular segment, D-Street Chatter, along with the key market events you need to watch. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. You're with us on Markets Forward. Let's quickly head across to Nimesh for our segment D Street Chatter to figure out what the buzz was like today. Nimesh, what did you pick up?
Well, market ended at day's low and very close to the crucial support of 21,690. So that's the level to watch out for going forward. But in terms of individual names, though, the first stock on my list is IEX. Despite regulatory headwinds for the last couple of days, that stock has seen some bit of contra buying from larger institutions. Yesterday, the deliveries were quite high, and so is the case in today's trade as well. So expect high delivery volumes, and there is a bit of buying interest back in IEX. The second name is JP Power, a small stock. We don't talk too much about it, but first signs of some institutional interest in that stock as well. The stock sharply recovered from intraday lows and in large volumes as well. In fact, this month, Y2Day, this stock is up more than 50%. So that's been JP Power. And the last name is Inox Swing. That was buzzing in trade on good volumes. The company reported a large order win as well. But I understand that the street is anticipating further large orders for Inox Swing, and hence even that stock was buzzing in a weak market today.
Okay, all right, Nimesh, thanks for that. Well, before we wrap up, we get you some key market events that you need to track, both global as well as domestic. Abhishek standing by to give us that list. Abhishek?
Well, Nigel, one of your favorite quote of weekend, that's coming in early for Chinese as well as Korean markets. And the global data to watch out will be US jobless claims estimated at about 220,000 versus 224,000 last time. Canada employment change and unemployment rate will be seen. India, with respect to that, RBI will be coming out with the fortnight data on deposit growth, advances growth, M3 growth and forex reserves. So that will be seen closely. Some of the earnings expected tomorrow are Bandhan Bank, Imami, Godrej Industries, Hero Motorcorp, Hutco, IRFC, MRF, as well as Pfizer and Tata Power. In terms of dividends, which will come tomorrow is Artus Value Housing Finance, KPIT Technologies, Moil, Sun Pharma, as well as Triveni Engineering. Interim dividend will be given tomorrow. Back to you.
All right, Abhishek, thank you very much for that wrap up. And with that, it's a close on this edition of Markets Forward. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll be back with news and updates in just a bit after this break. Or just take it on one single close cam if that makes it easier.
What's it? Hello and welcome to Markets Forward, right? I'm there. Okay. Hello and welcome to Markets Forward. That's it, right? Yeah. Okay. Then put it now. Jaldi. It's a single cam. Okay. Hello and welcome to Markets Forward. I'm Nigel D'Souza and with me is Surbhi Upadhyay. Okay? Okay. Thank you. Sorry, ma'am.
हाँ